squared plus bx plus c is a little bit of a longer process. What we notice here is that we do have an a value. You know, it's not as simple as what are the factors of 8 that add to give us a negative 14. We're going to do just a little bit more with this. First step of factoring those, we want to ask ourselves, is there anything that we can take out of each term? We have a 6, negative 14, and 8. And, well, they're all even, so we could factor out a 2. So if we take out a 2, we're left with 6 divided by that 2 is a 3x squared, minus 14 divided by 2 is 7x, plus 8 divided by that 2 is 4. So you always want to remember that first step of factoring, because now what we're left with to factor is just the 3x squared minus 7x plus 4, which will be a much simpler factoring to do. So when we notice that we have something in front of x squared, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our outside numbers. By the way, that 2 we're just going to ignore for now. It'll come in our final answer. But we take our outside numbers and we're going to multiply 3 times 4. And 3 times 4 gives us 12. And what we want to look for now are factors of 12 that will add up to a negative 7. So factors of 12, we want the factors. Because it has to add up to a negative number, but it's a positive 12, I'm going to think of negative factors. So let's see, negative 6 and negative 2. Negative 6 plus negative 2 is negative 8, which is not the negative 7 we're looking for. How about negative 3, negative 4? When we add those together, we get negative 7, which is exactly what we're looking for. That's that middle term. So negative 3 and negative 4 are the factors that we want. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to rewrite this. The first term never changes. It's just a 3x squared. And then instead of writing a negative 7x, I'm going to use these two down here. I'm going to say a negative 3x and a negative 4x. Because really, you know, negative 3x and negative 4x combined gives you this negative 7x. So we just took the negative 7x and broke it apart. And then our last term plus 4 stays the same. So now what we have done is we've taken our trinomial with 3 terms and we've broken it apart. Now we have something with 4 terms. So this is our factoring by grouping. When you have 4 terms, we're going to group our first 2 terms together and group our second 2 terms together. So 3x squared minus 3x, is there anything that we can factor out of each term? And I would say, well, a 3 and an x could be factored out. So let's factor out a 3x, and we're left with x minus 1. Now, our middle term, our middle sign, this negative, always comes down. That stays the same. And now 4x plus 4, what can be factored out? Well, a 4 could come out, and what are we left with? We're left with an x. This is where it gets a little tricky because technically we did factor out a negative 4 when we kept that negative the same right here. So we're going to put a minus 1 because this negative 4 times this negative 1 will get us the positive 4 that we started with. So this is an excellent checking point right here. We want to say, do our parentheses match? If they match, we're almost done and we're on the right path. If they're not matching, then we've done something wrong and we can stop and fix it before we get to our final answer. So what we see in the parentheses, that x minus 1 is going to come down for our answer. And then whatever's left, this 3x and this minus 4, is going to go into another set of parentheses. And then we can't forget about this 2 to come down into our final answer. And this is our factored form.